Imagine yourself as a student attending Columbine High School in 1999. On April 20th, two seniors walk in wearing trench coats, and since it is nearly graduation time, you figure this is their planned senior prank. The panic only starts to set in when you watch a fellow student crumple to the ground before your eyes. You run around the corner and try to hide. You watch them shoot down a few more students, some of them your friends. The gunmen move upstairs and you run outside for help. You are safe. The next day, you read the list of victims and the names of the shooters. How could this happen, you ask yourself? Well, studies suggest video games. As stated in New York Times article Tying Columbine to Hype Video Games, published July 5, 2007, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold went on their shooting rampages after their parents took away video game privileges. They relied on the virtual world of computer games to express their rage and spend time, and cutting them off in 1998 sent them into a crisis. The problem is the effects that violent video games have on children. Violence in video games is happening today. As stated on the Entertainment Software Rating Board's website, copyright 2013, video games rated M for mature generally contain intense violence, blood and gore, sexual content, and/or strong language. They went on to explain that intense violence contains graphic and realistic-looking depictions of physical conflict, and it may involve extreme and/or realistic blood, gore, weapons, and depictions of human injury and death. Blood and gore are depictions of blood and the mutilation of body parts. According to the academic article, Counterpoint, video games are addictive and promote irresponsible behavior, published in 2011, 86% of American children aged 8 through 16 play video games. They went on to say that of the vast majority of video games on the market, nearly 90% by some estimates contain violent scenes. Later on in the article, the author states, although there is a national rating system in place to help prevent minors from accessing the games, most retailers do not have a policy for checking IDs or otherwise controlling the sales of these video games to minors. Violence in video games affect the children in the following ways. Children can become addicted to violent video games. Video game addiction is a dangerous clinical disorder. According to WebMD.com, copyright 2006, it is a clinical impulse control disorder, an addiction in the same sense as compulsive gambling. Too much gaming may seem relatively harmless compared with the dangers of drug overdose, but Baker says video game addiction can ruin lives. The aforementioned went on to say that children who play 4 to 5 hours per day have no time for socializing, doing homework, or playing sports, he says. That takes away from the normal social development. You can get a 21-year-old with the emotional intelligence of a 12-year-old. He's never learned to talk to girls, he's never learned to play a sport. Violent video games caused children's aggression rates to rise. As found on PsychologyToday.com, published January 27, 2011, video game play is active, whereas watching TV is passive. People learn better when they are actively involved. They gave an example by saying, suppose you wanted to learn how to fly an airplane. Which would be the best method to use? Reading a book, watching a TV program, or using a video game flight simulator? Second, players of violent video games are more likely to identify with the violent character. People are more likely to behave aggressively themselves when they identify with the violent character. They went on to say that third, violent video games directly reward violent behavior, such as by awarding points or by allowing them to move on to the next level. It is well known that rewarding behavior increases its frequency. As these are theoretical reasons why violent video games are bad, there is also empirical data showing this is true. In a study, children were randomly assigned to play violent video games or watch someone else play them. There was also a non-violent control group. The aggression was measured through peer nominations of real-life aggressive behavior during school-free sessions at school, such as hitting, kicking, or pushing another student. The results showed that boys who played violent video games were more aggressive than boys who merely watched. They went on to say that these studies show that violent video games increase aggressive thoughts, angry feelings, psychological arousal, i.e. heart rate, blood pressure, and aggressive behavior. Violent video games also decrease helping behavior and the feelings of empathy for others. We need to educate parents on what the impact of exposure of violent video games has on their children by sending home educational materials in the school's weekly newsletters. We will send home informational flyers. They will have information covering the negative side effects of violent video games, and they will also have tips for parents on how to regulate what their children are exposed to. This will work for the following reasons. Parents will receive these newsletters weekly and are able to read the consequences of video games. The guided tips helps parents regulate what their children are exposed to and will give them easy-to-follow advice. Things will get better if parents are thoroughly educated on violent video games and their effects. Parents will be more conscious of what their children are exposed to, theoretically stopping their young children from playing. Since kids will be on the game consoles less, they will be more active and physically fit. Children will also be less aggressive and more social, therefore gaining friends. I need your help to make this happen. Contact Chairperson Annie Hendrickson. Annie can be contacted at annie@saveourchildren.com. Let her know that you want to help type up weekly newsletters to send home to parents at our middle schools, elementary schools, and preschools. Please do this now.